Oh, that's in.
Blistering starts to a tennis match.
Shakespeare got it wrong. It wasn't King Lear. It's King Lear.
LeBron James with no regard for human.
Yuvraj Singh finishes things off on style.
This is a Newslaundry podcast, and you're listening to NL Playoffs.
Hello and welcome to NL Playoffs. My name is Gautam. I have with me my co-host Aniket. Aniket, say hi.
Hello, everyone.
So this is a brand new podcast offering from the Newslaundry staple. This is going to be a sports-based podcast. And what we hope to do is that we want this to be a subscriber-driven podcast. So to kind of give you some background, first of all, both myself and Aniket are Newslaundry subscribers, and we actually met through one of the WhatsApp groups that was created way back in the day for the US group. So that's how we connected. So Aniket, I think we should probably start with what we hope to do for this podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Gautam. So the goal is basically to cover current events in sports, maybe take a dive down memory lane, and open the time machine and look at some historic sporting events as and when time allows. But the larger agenda is to engage the subscriber base in sports and in the world of sports. And my personal goal is to learn something. So to leverage this platform, to learn from the Newslaundry subscribers, to learn from you and the NL community in general. So that's my goal, and that's what we intend for. But you can add something that you want to take away from this.
No, for sure. And also, as Aniket said, when we say that we want this to be a subscriber-driven podcast, we mean that we really, really want to hear from all of you who are listening to this podcast. So please do write into us every week or whenever we record this. We would highly encourage you to write into us, to review us, to give us some feedback, positive, negative, but hopefully constructive. We'd also like to hear from you on what you'd like to see us cover during this podcast as we keep moving. So given what our agenda we have, I know we had a terrific sporting week and a weekend, Aniket. So what we are going to do today is to discuss what happened at the Euro 2020/21 final between England and Italy. But what we'd first like to do is to kind of see what happened in the world of sport in general and with some, big headlines that happened over the week. So, Aniket, I think do you want to run us through the headlines real quick?
So let me first start. So we had tennis, the Wimbledon that took place. So Novak Djokovic from Serbia beats Matteo Berrettini at the Wimbledon final. And he's now holding 20 Grand Slam wins, which equals Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal. So he's in the books of the all-time greats.
The rise of Djokovic has been kind of amazing, Aniket. Do you know how many Grand Slams he had in the year 2010? He had one.
Right.
In 2010, he had one Grand Slam, and now in the next 10 or 11 years, he has won 19 more. It's insane what he's doing. He's on course to achieving a calendar slam this year, and then there's obviously the Olympics. So he might actually get the Olympic gold as well as the calendar slam this year.
It's called the Golden Slam, right?
Yeah, the Golden Slam. He wins the gold for the Olympics. So it's kind of unbelievable. He looks pretty much unbeatable right now. Berrettini tried his luck. I know he should have never won the first set, but he won. But after that, it was all Djokovic.
Yeah, and I fear he's going to overtake Federer in his record books for sure. The way things are going.
I'm not going to fear that anymore. He's going to overtake him no matter what. I'm pretty sure.
That hurts when you say it like that, but yeah. So that being said, let's go to the women's Wimbledon. So Ashley Barty won her second Grand Slam title here at the Wimbledon. She also played for the Women's Big Bash League in Brisbane for the Brisbane Heat in 2015. So she was also in cricket, as you told me. I had no idea about this, but this was very interesting to know. So she's a two-time Grand Slam winner in tennis, and she played professional cricket. Wow.
So I was just looking up, and I watched some videos as well of her playing for the Brisbane Heat in the Women's Big Bash League. So she wanted to take a break, apparently, in 2015 for a couple of years. So she moved on to team sport. I guess that's how good she was, that she was just able to transition from one sport to another and just be so good at another sport. Kind of crazy.
So another sad news for the Roger Federer fans out there. So Roger Federer has pulled out from the Olympics after a knee injury setback. So that's what we have from the world of tennis. So let's go on to Gautam, a sport that's very close to you, basketball. So the NBA finals are going on. The Milwaukee Bucks are playing the Phoenix Suns, and the score is 1-2 in favor of the Suns right now. The fourth game is supposed to happen tomorrow as we record. Also, the US basketball team is going into the Olympics, and there are some waves going on there because they had a shock defeat to Nigeria in the Olympics tune-up, which is basically an exhibition match. But nevertheless, it seemed to send shockwaves all around the basketball world. You want to add something to that?
Dude, I did not watch the game, but it was kind of a shock that they lost Nigeria and then they played Australia actually. I think it was 2 days later when they played Australia and then lost to Australia again. I mean, Australia has a decent team with some decent NBA players like Patty Mills and Joe Ingles and all those guys. But I mean, it's an exhibition match. They're feeling each other out. They're not the best constructed roster in the world or that the US basketball has ever seen, but still has a lot of star players packed in. So they can beat in all they want during the Olympic run-up. But once I think the Olympics actually start, I think they should be fine. It'll still be a major upset if they end up not winning the gold medal.
So we have the Olympics starting from 23rd July to 8th of August 2021, and it's going to be held in Japan. And we have the Indian contingent ready to go. So all the best to the Indian contingent. And I think even the Prime Minister of India wished them recently all the best. So I hope they do well and make us all proud. We'll be proud nevertheless, but it'll be good to have some medals back home.
Yeah, dude, they win some more medals this time in wrestling and shooting. I know those are the major events that we've always done well, but Deepika Kumari in archery, she's been excellent. She won the world title recently, so hopefully she bags home a medal, hopefully the gold medal, man. She's pretty good at what she does. I remember watching her in the last Olympics. She's pretty good. She just missed out on a medal last time, so hopefully now that seems to be on a prime, hopefully she'll bag a gold medal. But anyway, we'll cover more of that, I'm sure, as the Olympics start.
Yeah, and there's also hope from the Indian javelin thrower, Neeraj Sharma. So he seems to be promising in what he's doing. So yeah, all the best and more power to all of them. So with that, let's go to another sport that's very close to me. It's Formula One. Just to wrap up, we didn't have a race this weekend, but Red Bull and Max Verstappen are leading the drivers and constructors championship. So they seem to be pushing Mercedes-Benz and Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion who's equaled Michael Schumacher's record, to the edge. So we can now see that the Mercedes team, who were extremely dominant for the past 6 seasons, are under pressure. And it's a very interesting season this year.
I think Max Verstappen is going to win it this year. I think he has Red Bull has a better car this year than Mercedes, and he's cashing in at this point. I know Hamilton has been whining a little bit here and there that he does not have a good car and is complaining and all of that. But hey, he had the best car on the circuit of the last, 7 years or so now, Aniket?
That's right. That's right.
I mean, you really can't complain right now, I think. So he's fine. Max Verstappen, I think, is going to win it.
He's promising, super exciting. And the Red Bull have really taken that fight to Mercedes this year. So that's very good to know, because otherwise it's been the fights between the two Mercedes driver, and Lewis Hamilton has been coming on top. So it's good to see youngsters fighting.
Yeah, I know that Toto Wolff, is he the president of Mercedes? He's come out and said that they're not going to look at making any improvements this year on their car. I think he's pushing all of his chips into next year, based on what his comments were to the press. But looks like, I mean, externally they won't say it. I think they're probably okay with the car that they have, and they're probably okay with finishing second this year.
Yeah, so there's actually a lot of information coming on that front. There's mind games going on. So Wolf says one thing, his deputy comes out and says, no, we are actually trying to improve this car. So yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty going on. It's also, I think, mind games just to set the bar low, I guess, or it's called sandbagging, like they call it sandbagging. But that's from the world of Formula One. And now moving to what interests us and what's going to be driving this podcast today is basically football. I would like to first start with that the Indian Super League is set to feature in FIFA 2022. So I'm excited about that. So that's some news for India. I did see a couple of Indian Super League games and they were pretty exciting. So,
by the way, have you ever played with India? Have you ever played FIFA, and have you ever played with India on FIFA?
I have played with India and I have got beat with India too. So somebody beat me while playing using India. So yeah.
Well, more power to Sunil Chhetri, man. I hope he gets a decent rating in FIFA. He's the 4th highest goal scorer in the world right now, active players. So that would be great.
Yeah. So that's from the Indian thing. But there were winners in both South America and Europe. So coming to the Copa America, we had Messi and Argentina. Finally, Messi picks his national trophy after a long battle with his national teams.
But the run is over now. Argentina are champions of South America. Argentina crowd around Lionel Messi. The world's greatest player finally has an international trophy. There can be no more arguments.
Tell you what, the listeners can't see it, but Aniket was had his both fists up in the air when he said Messi won.
Yeah, I've been wanting this for him, wishing this for him from a long time. And so just to give context, the Copa America was played in Brazil, and the final was between Argentina and Brazil. So Brazil was playing at home. Brazil, of course, had Neymar and 10 other brilliant players, but the Argentina won 1-0 in the finals from actually a very nice goal from Angel Di Maria.
Argentina just struggling to find a way through, but it's a long direct ball and Di Maria's in behind. Di Maria over the goalkeeper. Di Maria gives Argentina the lead. 21 minutes gone, and Angel Di Maria puts Argentina ahead in the Copa America final.
I really enjoyed that goal. I know it came off a defensive error. They should have cleared that ball out, but he slipped. But that chip was pretty neat. I love Angel Di Maria. Di Maria, by the way, I was watching some of the Copa America games. He did not start in any of those games, I think. This was the first start he had, and that was in the final. He kept coming off the bench. I don't think he had an injury or any other niggle either. So I don't know why he came off the bench. Starting him in the final, I think, was a great choice, clearly.
Yeah, and it worked out well, at least. It took the trophy home to Argentina.
It looks like it was also a very rough and tumble game, a lot of fouls. I think we were talking about this before we recorded. I think there were over 42 or 43 fouls in the final. So I'm sure there was a lot of, as the British call it, a lot of shithousery. In other words, a lot of diving, faking, and intentional fouling and all of that.
Yeah, this final did have, I think, all of that. But then again, so from here we move on to Euros, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. So in the Euro finals, Italy played at England's home in the Wembley Stadium, and Italy took the European trophy to Rome, and it was decided in penalties. So we have something very exciting which would be this game and what has happened after the game. So we will basically touch upon the various aspects of what went into the finals and then what actually happened in the days that follow.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Euro final, and as Aniket just said, Italy came up on the winning side. Aniket, is there a worse way to lose final than a penalty shootout?
Like I told you this offline that I didn't want that game to go into the penalties, right? And
yeah,
so there's a lot of talk about how penalties in football is like the Russian roulette. I don't agree because there is technique, there is skill involved in here. So let's not take that away. But I'm guessing I don't know, until we have something better, I guess this is the best way to decide tie. Okay, so I'm going to come to an interesting fact here. So did you know that Italy in 1970, I don't remember the exact year, but I think it was 1974, decided a semi-final on a coin toss. Did you know that?
I think I've heard of it before, but I don't know the exact details.
Yeah, so it was basically a game between Italy and Soviet Union, and this was in 1968, sorry. I'm stand corrected. And it was semi-final in 1968 Euros, were played between Italy and Soviet Union. The game was actually a 0-0 draw. And then to decide the game, this was after extra time. And then to decide the game, there were two UEFA officials accompanied by the captains. And then they basically flipped a coin and the Italy captain called right to move ahead. So I think penalties is a better way to decide the game rather than a coin toss, but that's where we stand.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of some people talk about having more extra times and until a goal is scored. I think football is a physically demanding game. It's just going to be too much for the players.
That being said, let's talk about the final between England and Italy. So the trophy was supposed to come home to England. It was in their backyard. The game was being played at Wembley.
I think going into the game, they were pretty evenly matched because I think Italy was the better side because the team of the tournament coming into the final anyway. But I think just by the virtue of England playing at Wembley, I think the odds were slightly in their favor. So I think they were pretty much going into the final. They were evenly matched. I mean, both the managers went in with the expected lineup. Interestingly, England went with 3-4-2-1 formation or 3-5-3 formation, however you can call it, with the three at the back with Maguire, Stones, and Kyle Walker, and then having those wing backs on left and right, Luke Shaw and Kieran Trippier. I think that was a good ploy because you could see the result immediately in the second minute of the game when Luke Shaw scored off of Kieran Trippier's cross, I believe. So immediately those two wingbacks came into play because they had three at the back. The wingbacks had the luxury to go as forward as possible because they had that defense at the back. So I think the direct result of Luke Shaw's goal in the second minute of the game.
For a fantastic start here, Shaw! They've got it! His first goal for England, and what a time to get it!
the man who's come back into the fold, almost ruled out totally by Gareth Southgate. Luke Shaw.
Because you bring up the formation, which was, I think they played 3-5-2 and with Pickford at the goal.
Yeah.
So the idea was, like you said, so having three at the back, I think Gareth Southgate started moving to this in 2018 when he was coming for the World Cup. Before that, he used to play the standard four at the back. But it does give them actually a lot of options. The three center backs can actually play it to either of the five or, one among themselves, and it helps get rid of a press. So when the team is pressing on you, you can always create space. What I found super interesting was how England started this game. They started it so unlike England. And I believe, this is an opinion again, that it was their tactic of, going at it in the first 2 minutes that actually helped score. And from there on, I think it was suicide. The way they played from there on was just absolute. And I think this was more than two teams. I thought this was a game between two managers. So I don't see it as 11 players, but I saw it as a game of like two sets of tactics, one by Roberto Mancini, who's coaching the Italian team, and Gareth Southgate, who is now working with who's the head coach of the English team. So do you want to add something to that, Gautam?
No, but yeah, you are right, because once England, I think all they were looking for was to score a goal. That was all that they were looking for. Once they scored the goal, they just hung back. I think that is typical of England and Gareth Southgate. I think Gareth Southgate is not an attacking-minded manager. He is a conservative manager, so to speak. If he has, especially if you look at some of his earlier selections, he's not a big fan of Phil Foden, I don't think, but he really likes Saka, because I think Saka does give you the option to track back on defense. So I think he is a conservative manager, and that kind of mindset made England, I think, as soon as they scored the goal, they immediately went from 3-5-2 to 5 at the back. Immediately, Luke Shaw and Trippier were now more like left back and a right back instead of a left wing back and a right wing back, right? And that opened the door for Italy. Once they settled into the game, they were able to make those short, intricate passes. Jorginho was able to play through the lines. You know how they make those triangle passes, one give and goes and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that was to their peril. England should have kept playing the natural, well, I shouldn't say natural game, but kept playing how they started, especially with the crowd behind them.
Exactly. And I couldn't agree more with what you said. So there are two things that come to my mind here. First, like, you score a goal and sit back. Sure, that's actually a great tactic. It's a great tactic if it's like 75 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
If you're 2 minutes, you don't plan to sit back and defend for 88 minutes. Like, the odds are stacked against you. I mean, obviously Gareth Southgate has thought about this. I've never played professional football. My opinion matters for nothing, but it seemed so surprising. Like, while I was sitting on my television, I was looking at the game and I'm like, dude, if you saw, Italy was actually flabbergasted with the way English started the game. Like, when the goal was scored, if you see Di Lorenzo, he's basically waving his hand to save the ball, and Donnarumma is stuck. Everyone's confused. When you hit your opponent early and you hit your opponent so hard, you don't give them 88 minutes in the game to come back. Like, I mean, no, that's a crime.
Especially with this Italian side, because they're not the Italy of old. This is not the Italy of Cannavaro, Nesta, Maldini, and Gattuso, and all those grind and tumble guys. It's this Italy under Mancini has some flair to it. They're always looking to push forward. Or they're always looking to create instead of looking to defend all the time.
Right. And when we say that, England actually were on the back foot, let's be very clear. Up to the halftime, actually, Harry Kane had one of the best games of his life. When he was at number 10, actually falling back, he was just unstoppable, unplayable. And when you have that kind of momentum, so at least for the first 30 minutes, when it seemed England were in control, pressing high, not letting Italy make the passes from the back, it felt like, okay, they're taking the game to Italy. But then I don't know which switch flipped where, but they just started sitting back, and you could actually, if you do a time lapse of this game, you can see Italy build. Like, slow and slow. First, not able to make the simplest of passes. Then, trying to string 2 passes together, trying to string 3 passes together. And by the time you're in like the 70th minute, they're playing, like you said, this intricate passes, Chiesa coming in and a lot of stuff happening. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a question I wish I could ever get an answer to, as to what made Gareth Southgate like sit back, especially after opening a game like that. Like when you're opening, your opponent is on the back foot, they seem puzzled to me.
Yeah.
And why would you give all your earnings back?
How good was Chiesa? He was instrumental, I think, will the score, because initially he was trying to make those runs with the ball. He was dribbling. He's a great dribbler, and he gets past defenders pretty easily. And he had a shot. I think he had a couple of shots. He forced a couple of saves from Pickford before the goal. So he was creating chances for Italy, and I think that gave them a lot of self-confidence. He started on the right wing, but he kept switching from right to left, and he was doing all kinds of things and trying to, at the beginning, as you said, when Italy was trying to come back into the game, he was the main guy who was instrumental in getting them back on track.
I regret this, that I didn't follow him very closely when he was at Juventus, actually. But he's been a find. So at least from my perspective, he's exciting, entertaining, and he's lethal. Like he can like skip past players. He doesn't go to the ground easily, so he's fast, and I look forward to now. I might just follow Serie A much more closely just to see what's going to happen with him.
Because I was working from home over the last year, wink, wink. I was fortunate enough to watch a lot of the Champions League last season. That's when I watched Chiesa. I was thoroughly impressed with what he was doing. He's a great. I mean, as you said, he was a great find for Juventus, but now in Italy, I think the world is seeing he might actually get a really good contract from somebody if he gets transferred. I'm sure there'll be offers for him.
I'm sure Juventus is going to try and retain him.
Oh yeah,
at least the way it's gone so far.
Not looking good. Yeah, you're right. But as you said, from England were always looking to be more conservative and trying to defend. Even once the goal came, it was 65th minute. I think the way the second half started, the goal was imminent. The goal was coming. You could feel it that the goal was coming.
It's in low, flick on, and it's forced in the end from very close range by Leo Bonucci, and Italy are level. There have been signs, and England couldn't cope with the set piece, and the veteran defender has made it Italy 1, England 1 at Wembley.
After they scored the goal, it was like, will Italy score another goal instead of thinking, will England ever come back? Because England, I don't think at any point in the second half or extra time looked like they were going to score.
Yeah. And I want to add something to this. So I was just looking at, the stuff that we had, basically the data about what happened in the game. And I just wanted to tell you, coming back to the point again, this was basically Mancini versus Gareth Southgate. So before Italy scores, you see that Ciro Immobile is basically not contributing to the game, right? Because he's the guy who's loiters in the box and finishes it from inside the D, but he's not able to contribute. You can see Mancini actually shifts the game by getting Cristante and Berardi inside. So then you have Chiesa, Cristante, Berardi, who are actually this trio now. They're mixing and mingling. And obviously, let's not forget Barella, who is basically, I think he had the freedom in a lot of times to go around the park, and be wherever he wants. You could see Mancini mix things up, trying to get Italy back to the game. Gareth Southgate, on the other hand, was super passive. He was just sitting, and again, just to drive the point home, all the substitutions he made were after Italy scored. I'm like, it's basically the manager sitting and watching that, okay, let's let them score and I will do something. I mean, like, that is so passive in a European Cup final. Like, I was surprised.
Even when he made the substitutions, it was, I believe it was Jordan Henderson who came on first. It was still defensively minded. It was not as if he was bringing Saka or Foden right up front or Sancho right up front. He brought in Sancho and Rashford exclusively for penalties, right? So at any point during the actual game itself, his substitutions were a little conservative. But then again, that's how he's always been. You talk about Jose Mourinho and how he's always being defensive, right? But that sometimes the managers have a style and they stick to it. But yeah, they should have definitely tried to dictate the game a little more. They just played into Italians' hands for sure.
So I want to just cycle back because you spoke about, defensive players, like just give the context of who was on the pitch for England and Italy, basically. So you had Harry Maguire, Stones, and Walker for the three central defenders. You had Luke Shaw, who's in the form of his life, I think, after what he's done in the last year. He's continuing that on. Luke Shaw and Kieran Trippier. And you have two brilliant players who I really admire. One is Calvin Phillips from Leeds United, actually in the midfield, and there's Declan Rice, right? So both of so this is basically their midfield come defense. And you can see from here on, like, this team is loaded to put a block, right? It's basically designed to sit back, put a block, and maybe counter. I think the goal was maybe counter, but statistics show that England had 0 counterattacks throughout the game. So I'm not even like talking about a half here, but 0 counterattacks throughout the game. And you had Mason Mount and Raheem Sterling on the wings or as forward, however you want to see it. And obviously Harry Kane, who was really good in the first half. So I think right from the picking of the team, like, fine, you pick the team. I'm totally with you, actually. If you want to pick this team, sure, go ahead. You can't be wrong when you pick this team. But when you see approximately the 60 minutes, I thought Mason Mount was invisible in this game. And that's an opinion.
Yeah.
As a manager, you could have bought Jack Grealish in. You could have like Rashford. You had Sancho. You had like the
Foden.
Phil Foden apparently was injured. So has a niggle that's going on. We don't know how serious that is. But I guess he can play because he was selected. But you have this variety of offense at your disposal and you don't do anything. I mean, that kind of broke. I was like, so just to let you know where my loyalties lie, I wanted Italy to win, right? So
me too.
I've been a fan of Italy. I'm a big fan of Andre Pirlo, and that man has just made me love football. So I've always, after that, I've had a soft corner for Italy, but I was still rooting for England to make this a more special game, I would say, I guess. Because like you said, I knew from halftime onwards, like, a goal is coming. We just didn't know from where for Italy. But it seems like they were going to build to this game.
I think England were hell-bent on looking to not concede and trying to hit the counter. And as you said, the counter never came. Italy are just too strong at the back too, because they have these veterans in the form of Chiellini and Bonucci. By the way, did you enjoy? I thoroughly enjoyed Chiellini's tactical foul at the very end, where Saka was getting past him. He just pulled him on by his collar. It was amazing. I thought as dirty as the play was, it was amazing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I would call that like a schoolboy foul, right? Like just pulling someone who's much smaller than younger than you by the collar and just dropping them off. I mean, I don't know. I laughed for a second, but then I was like, what are you doing? And then when you realize, like, okay, if he's beat, the game is done, basically.
Yeah.
So it was a tactical, well thought out foul. And that's where experience comes from, I guess. Like, you make these calls.
Yeah, totally.
So one more thing, Gautam, that I actually wanted to add here was on the topic of a counter, so even if you're doing a low block or a mid block, like they call it, like, if you think about what was the game plan, like when you have a block, you have to have an out ball, right? You want to put a ball to somebody. And the only out ball here seemed to be Raheem Sterling. And the guy is good. He's fast, but he can almost not do anything when the ball is in the air. So he basically needs like a beautiful delivered ball to his feet. And then he's like off zipping, running.
Like a through ball.
Exactly. And I don't know. I don't want to sound like an expert who's criticizing the English manager, but my heart was crying when they were playing like this. I thought England should have killed the game in the first 20 minutes and then actually put Italy under pressure.
Yeah.
I'm not saying England would have won it, but I'm like, they should have taken the battle to the English team, especially fact that you had 65,000 people at your home cheering for you. You had an absolute home advantage. They said 65,000 allowed capacity, but reports are saying that, it was actually almost full. The Wembley was full. You had ticketless people get in, barge in and all. It's a different topic. But when you had such backing playing at home, I don't know. Maybe the players are not going to sleep well. I know Saka for sure won't.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of want to touch on, I know you said Saka. So the game moved on to extra time and there's not much happening in extra time. Players just look gassed. I mean, but then some players Rashford got on, made some substitutions at the very end exclusively for penalties, where he subbed in Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho. I'm sure Saka was also subbed in because of penalties. So I'm pretty sure because of the advent of analytics over the last 5 years or so.
So can I just butt in, Gautam, and basically summarize what has happened so far? So we had England score in the second minute. And they go back on the defensive, and then Italy comes back in the second half, where Bonucci, who's actually 34, scores after a rebound from actually a very good save.
Yeah.
Right. So now the score is 1-1. It goes into extra time, and then we have like the substitutions that Gautam mentioned, spoke about happening in the 119th minute. So absolute last. So these substitutions were made in the context of having these players come on, and their first touch would actually be the penalty kick, which was to be taken. So go ahead, Gautam.
Right. So my point was, with the advent of analytics everywhere now, the last at least 5 years at a minimum, but over the last decade or so, I'm pretty sure England did their homework and they observed these players in training and said, hey, these are our 5 best players. We'll have Harry Kane, Harry Maguire, we'll have Sancho, we'll have Rashford, and we'll have Saka take the first 5, right? But then I don't know if the analytics actually consider, this is the kind of the beef I have, where I think we should find a proper balance between analytics and actual gameplay and game experience. Because I'm sure the analytics said these are the 5 best penalty takers in the team, right? Be it training, be it in general gameplay over the course of the last season or so. But then I don't think analytics take into consideration the pressure, the atmosphere, the stage might be too big for some of the players. I heard Rashford in his statement, he said he was little low on confidence as he was taking the penalty. He actually said something very interesting, Aniket. He said in his statement, he was actually going for that long and slow run-up to buy himself some more time so that he can build some more confidence, which is very interesting.
Rashford is ready. A stutter. Oh, he's missed it. Too much deliberation.
He's waiting for Donnarumma to make his move. Donnarumma kind of held his ground, didn't he? He said, go on then, pick your side. He's not looking at the ball. It is a difficult skill.
So I don't think analytics actually factor in these extra variables. Analytics are really good at some point, but I think at the end of the day, had it been like, let's say, campaigners, then, imagine Bukayo Saka. You're 19 years old. You're walking in to take that 5th penalty. The whole weight of England is on your shoulders and you have to make it or you're done. I don't think the analytics considers that, does it?
It does not, right? And I think this is where a head coach actually steps in, because data is unemotional, right? Data is a more matter of fact statement. Like, it depends on you what you do with data. Like, for example, you can see data how you want it to. You can skew it to how you see things. But this is where, and this is my beef with Gareth Southgate. He's an exceptional guy, like very nice person. He's brought England to a semi-final in the World Cup, and he's now taken them to a final. And, more power to him in the World Cup that's coming in about 15 to 18 months. So English team he's taken English team to do something they have not done 55 years. I give him everything. He has all my respect. My only complaint against him was, if you see Mancini, someone who is, I would say, has a better head over him or more experience, here is where you would want, man management and leadership to come in. Saka is your best penalty taker. Sure, he is. You've seen him in training. We've not. He's never taken a penalty kick in his life, in his professional career, neither for Arsenal, neither for England, right? Sure, give him the second kick, give him the first kick, give him the third kick. You don't put it on a teenager who's taking the first penalty of his professional career in some sense. Like, you might find an, kick here, order to with the under 21 team or something. But when it's on this stage in a final, I think this is a call that the manager was supposed to make.
Pressure on a 19-year-old. And now Italy win.
And again, you can nitpick, you can say this is all hindsight. Like, if you'd have scored, like, everything I say is null and void, right? It doesn't matter. But I'd still say that you give the first kick, second kick, maybe first and fifth are the most important kicks. So you keep them for your experienced players, second, third, fourth. Because even the players, and Gautam, I don't know if you've played football. So have you played football when you were younger?
Oh, I was a very below average football player, Aniket.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter, right? I didn't represent India, dude. I played for my freaking college team. But the point is, like, and this has happened. You're waiting. You're the 5th penalty taker. You're actually seeing everything play. Your mind is basically at that point, like, just gaming everything that can possibly go right, possibly go wrong. I don't think that was the best move to give a 19-year-old kid. And I want to disagree with a lot of people who said 19-year-old kid shouldn't have taken a kick at all. I don't agree with that. I think Saka should have. And he definitely should have, especially given what he's done in training and what the reports say that he was actually really good. The point I'm trying to make is that he should have been placed more smartly. And that call is actually finally been to be made by the manager.
But I think having said all of this, I agree with you. Maybe Saka should have taken somewhere between the second and the fourth kick. But maybe because if you look at Harry Kane just placed it perfectly, and so did Harry Maguire. So maybe that would have been, in hindsight, as you said, is 2020. So yeah, maybe that would have been the right call.
A shout out to Harry Maguire's penalty.
Yeah.
What a shot. I mean, come on. That's like textbook. Like,
did you see the camera angle? Did you see the camera angle?
He basically broke the camera in the back of the goal, right? So
that was amazing.
It was a beautiful penalty shot, and wow. So, clearly Harry Maguire stepping up. So Gareth Southgate had a plan. He wanted to take his 5 best kick takers, whatever they were. So the one problem was Saka 5th. The other thing I had an issue with was Rashford and Sancho coming on right before the penalties. Like Louis van Gaal had done this, I think, with the Dutch earlier. Like he brought Tim Krul on, like just for mixing things up.
Yes.
Again, that's a comparison that later was like a masterstroke. Wow, and this could have gone that way too. Like Rashford, Sancho come score, England wins. But there's a subtlety to that. And what it is that a footballer is a guy who's playing on field and is not a keeper, is engaging with the ball, right? So you want to touch, you want to feel, you want to get some confidence on that ball. Whereas a goalkeeper is actually diving to save with his hands, which is a more natural instinct to do. And I felt it was actually a bad idea to have these guys in the 119th minute. And not because just they take the penalty, because football 101, you don't make a substitution when you're defending, right? And that's exactly what happened. He got Rashford in, and Rashford was basically playing right back at that point. Like,
yes, he was
going in for a throw in, and he's an offensive player. So you could have actually lost the game by doing something stupid as well. So that being a technical textbook argument that I'm making. But the other thing was, like, these guys have coming and they're taking probably the biggest kick of their life.
Yeah.
And the first kick is first time they touch the ball is on the penalty spot. I think that's asking a bit too much of everyone, given the fact that Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Kevin De Bruyne, everyone have missed penalties. So it's not an easy thing behind. And this is my rant about Gareth Southgate's. I'm sorry for that, but yeah.
Also, on a positive note, shouts to both of the goalkeepers, I think, setting those penalties. I think Pickford saved, especially off of Jorginho. Jorginho is an exceptional penalty taker. So I think to save that penalty was quite something. He brought England back to the game, because they were at the brink, right? Had Jorginho scored, it would have been curtains at that point. So he came up with a clutch save. And then Donnarumma was just, he knew what he was doing. He could see that he was looking at the players. He was observing how their hips went, they're opening up their hips. Like Jadon Sancho, you could see Sancho's opening his hips to go to the goalkeeper's left. So I think he read that beautifully, and cool as a cucumber.
And, so first credit to Pickford, because I think he went down as one of the heroes who held the fort but lost the battle,
Yeah.
So basically he did everything he could, and unfortunately it's a team sport and this happens. Heartbreak is a part of sport. But if you observed the camera angle, especially when Sancho was taking the penalty, or Rashford especially, Donnarumma covers the goal. Basically, he opens his hand, and the next person I remembered was Van der Sar. Because when he did that, arms wide open, you could see there are 2 slots on the side that are actually left for you to score. And that's freaking scary, especially if you're a kid, youngster, and that's your first touch of the game. It is freaking intimidating to see Donnarumma out there in that goal, the beast he is.
Totally. He's looks like he's a worthy successor to his namesake, Gianluigi Buffon. But he's just 22, dude. It's amazing that he has such a level head. He looks pretty cool under pressure, very calm under pressure. I know we spoke about this when we were watching the match. After he saved, he was just walking away as if it was nothing. Later, he said in a statement that he thought the match was not over yet. Otherwise, he would have celebrated it. So he was just walking away thinking that there's still sudden death going on. But of course, the Italian players came jumping on him. So it was very interesting. I think another shout out should go to, I know we shouted him out a little bit, should go to the Italian coach, Roberto Mancini, to take a side that didn't even make it to the World Cup last time in 2018, to transform that side into his own mold, right? He kind of has a managerial style that is attacking and with a touch of flair, to transform an Italian side that has traditionally been defensive minded. I mean, I always think about Gattuso and how he played when he was part of the international side, right? So to transform that and to get all of these creative guys like Insigne and Immobile and Chiesa and Jorginho, who just creates all the time from the back, he also had to, combine them with some veteran presence in the form of Chiellini and Bonucci. I think he got everything spot on in this tournament. Right from the get-go, they looked like the best side of the tournament.
And they are champions of Europe. And the celebrations here are totally deserved. They have completed their Italian job in a superb setting.
100%. And one thing I want to talk about, we spoke about managers. Like what Mancini had, according to me, was a system, a structure in play. So you had Cristante come in, you had Berardi, you had Belotti come in. Yeah, all of these guys come in, and none of them are like offensive, run through the center midfielders, but everyone knew what they were supposed to do in that system they were. And I think this is what has given them their unbeaten run. Like, and if you do a head-to-head comparison with the offense England has and these guys, I would say that Italians were actually lacking in that field. They have a brilliant midfield, but when you talk about the offense that's there and to actually finish it, like Immobile has had like the worst. I mean, he's brilliant in his club, but he's had like the worst Euros of his career, I guess. And with no goals coming in, what it actually showed was this manager had a structure in play. No matter what quality of the player that was actually coming in, the player could actually leverage, know what his duty was, and actually contribute to the team, which I felt lacked, because when Marcus Rashford actually came on, he actually went back running to Gareth Southgate to basically ask him what he was supposed to do, which position he was supposed to play.
Yeah.
And I'm only guessing that Gareth Southgate's going to get stronger and learn his lessons. I hope he does.
Totally. Southgate, I think, is a really good man. He's a great man manager, I feel like. I mean, his game experience will probably needs a little more tune-up. I'm saying as if I'm like a mentor to all of these managers, but I'm sure England has only seen progress under him. I think coaching England is an extremely, extremely tough job. It's just a heartless and a thankless job. So to actually get England to a point where they believe in themselves, cut the noise away, they have a great atmosphere, it looks like by all accounts, around the team itself. Everybody's unselfish. There's no egos. There's no, star player versus star player and who is getting in, who is getting out. I think he's forged a really, really good atmosphere around the team. And I'm pretty sure I think he's run out of his contract, but I'm pretty sure they're going to renew him until at least the next World Cup. So it'll be great. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, England had an easy road to the finals of this tournament compared to the other teams, but hey, we have to still beat the opposition that is in front of you. So I think there's a really good tournament for England. I mean, heartbreak, coming home, not coming home and all of that. I think Bonucci's shouting to the camera that says the cup is going to Rome, right? Is that what you're shouting? It's coming to Rome.
It's coming to Rome! It's coming to Rome!
So that was really funny. That was one of the
That's a good
moments of the
wordplay.
tournament for me. Yeah, so that was really good to see. And I think we should also point out that there's a lot of hooliganism going on outside the Wembley Stadium before the game, during the game. A lot of fans barging in, breaking the security cordons. I think did not help that the game started a little late for England, but that shouldn't be an excuse, because I think all of them were saying that everybody was drinking from the morning, and that's no excuse to do anything. That is just abhorrent.
No, for sure. And there was videos, right, that you could see on the internet where these stewards who were given an orange bib being paid, unfortunately, minimum wage. Like one of them, actually, 3 of them manning about 150 people. What do you I mean, you can't blame the stewards at this point. Like these guys pushing, being rowdy, and UEFA actually denied it, that there was any ticketless fans actually entering into Wembley. And then The Guardian, ESPN and other agencies actually vetted the fact that they were on ground and they saw videos and they had information that there were ticketless fans who were actually being rowdy in the stadium. So all that happened. So this penalty loss, unfortunately, has also triggered a point that I wanted to touch, Gautam, which was extremely sad about the abuse Rashford, Sancho and Saka are getting. And I feel so bad for 3 of them, because 3 of them are extremely young. Saka still in his teens, right?
Yeah.
And I'm 100% sure he's not slept.
Yeah.
Missing the penalty kick, the way things played out. Oh boy, my heart cries out for people who are, who've put on. So there is news. I don't know what the exact details are, but there has been racial abuse on the internet and UEFA has come out talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, as sad as it is, it was completely expected. As soon as there's people commenting on Twitter, as soon as Saka missed the penalty and England lost, it was expected that they will be racially abused. We are at a stage now in the social media world where all of these anonymous accounts are going to go at you and use all kinds of racial slurs against you, because it's sad, but at the same time it's expected. I don't know what anybody can do. I mean, Twitter can say we are banning those people, but they can still create some other burner accounts and come back and do the same thing over and over again. So I don't see an end in sight. But then shouts to Rashford and Sancho and all these guys. Rashford is just an exceptional man in general. I saw him put out a statement that says, hey, what has happened, and I'm sorry for what happened. And he's just taking it in his stride like he has to. I mean, there's no way. What are these players going to do?
Absolutely. And, this bunch of English players are actually brilliant. And I genuinely like them, because previous England players were like star-studded teams. They were brilliant on paper. They almost always won everything on paper, right? So before they went into tournaments, everything was, taken by England. But this is one team, humble folks. You have Harry Kane, Marcus Rashford, the work he's been doing for hunger among school children, just outstanding. So it's a big shout out. And all of these guys are kids, like Saka is 19-year-old, and these guys have taken social responsibility, the humbleness of it. So I 100% agree. And I should put my hand up when this comes, because I'm not a fan of Gareth Southgate, right? I don't think he's a great manager. We'll come back to that later. But the culture he's built on, and, the humility this team possesses, I think that comes from the top. So that's a very big shout out. And like you said, the atmosphere is created for England.
Yeah,
is excellent. And that's a shout out to Gareth Southgate, because he's doing one part of his job very well.
Totally. I think the Euro as a whole has been a really exciting tournament for me. I personally picked Belgium to go all the way. I actually had a bet on it with some of my friends, and sadly the Italians had other ideas, but it was a thoroughly enjoyable tournament. I love the Euros. I just love international football competitions. So I think Euro as a whole was, for me at least personally, was a really good change of pace from Premier League and La Liga and all these leagues in general. But I think they'll probably go away with or move away from the multiple city hosting this tournament. I think it's just a dumb idea. For people, for teams to travel from Baku to Wembley, it's how many thousands of miles, and that takes a toll on your body. I mean, on paper, it sounds like a great idea that we can have all these European cities host this one tournament, but it's just practically, it's just seemed impossible.
Yeah, and I wanted to just do one shout out for this past 1.5 year. Like, these qualifiers for the Euros started at a time when the world was normal, right? We didn't ever think, I think the world never thought that they would be social distancing. And again, I want to let the viewers know this was supposed to be Euro 2020, which was actually delayed and played a year later. So it has been, I think, a crazy year for anyone and everyone on planet Earth. And if there's someone beyond, I don't know who's in space. But yeah, it's been a crazy year. And I think sports brings us all together. And I love that aspect of sport. And Euro was the one big football tournament. Obviously, there was Champions League, but this is something I was actually really looking forward to.
Awesome. With that being said, I think we've covered everything that we wanted to on the Euros. I hope we did a decent job on our first podcast, Aniket, but we'll let the listeners write into us to see what they think of. Please, guys, do write to us at contact@newslaundry.com with NL playoffs as the subject, and so that the email comes to us. Also, thanks to producer Amin, by the way, who is producing this podcast. But before we leave, we are going to follow the Hafta line and try to leave you with some recommendations. So, Aniket, I know you have a few.
Yeah, so recommendations, you're talking about football. I wanted to recommend a book, and the book is called Leading, and it's by Sir Alex Ferguson. So it's a book on management and his time at Man United, and it's about a few lectures he gives on management. Basically, he talks about football, but the context can be placed in, business and general on how to be a good leader and stuff. So I found that book very interesting. It's an interesting read. So that would be one recommendation from my end. And then another is a Wall Street Journal piece that basically talks about how Japan cannot come winning out of the Olympics. So it's the cost that is there and how expensive it is. So apparently it costs $16.5 billion to host the Olympics. And if they actually canceled it, it would cost $16.5 billion. But if the COVID pandemic would spread or get worse, it would be even more expensive. So it's a nice article on how the Prime Minister of Japan is actually under pressure to cancel these games and how they're trying to navigate this.
Awesome. I have a couple of recommendations. The first one is, I know we spoke about the Wimbledon finals earlier. So apparently the Wimbledon final was July 11th is when it happened. So exactly 20 years ago to the day, on July 11th, 2001, there was this guy called Goran Ivanisevic who was given the wild card to enter the Wimbledon championships. And he was the first and still the only player to win the whole tournament on a wild card entry. So I recommend this video that you need to watch. It'll be in the show notes as well, as to how he won the Wimbledon championships that year. It was kind of amazing. It was a weird tournament that year, Aniket. It was the tournament when Federer beat Sampras in the fourth round. He upset Sampras. A lot of upsets that year. The Wimbledon final went into a Monday because there was a lot of weather delays. And Ivanisevic beat Patrick Rafter on I think they called it People's Monday. It was a wild crowd. It was very unlike a typical Wimbledon crowd. So check that out. And the other one is, I'm going to recommend a podcast episode by Jared Kimber, who's a cricket writer. He has a podcast called The Red Inker. He had a podcast about 2 hours of Sachin and Azhar in Cape Town. It's about a partnership in Cape Town that happened between Azhar and Sachin, who, when India was, I think, 58 for 5 or something, and then they came out and just counter-attacked for 40 straight overs. They put on, I think, 220-odd run partnership. It's kind of an amazing sequence of play that does not get a lot of publicity. So Abhishek Mukherjee he's a writer who had a book especially on this partnership. So definitely check that out.
Before we take leave, I would like to tell the audience to subscribe to Newslaundry.
Yes.
So do your job, pay to keep news free, because your voices need to be heard. Your voices are as important as ours. So go ahead and help Newslaundry.
Absolutely. Go to newslaundry.com and hit that subscribe button. There are a number of options where you can subscribe to a fixed amount of time, 6 months, 1 year. So there are all kinds of options that you can look at. So please do visit our site, newslaundry.com, and please hit that subscribe button.
All the Newslaundry podcasts are available on Stitcher, iTunes, and any other podcast platform.
Please subscribe to Newslaundry. Help us keep news independent. To catch all our podcasts on news, pop culture, current affairs, and sport, visit newslaundry.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.